Hello everybody, let's talk about The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games is a YA dystopian novel, the first book in the trilogy by Suzanne Collins. Obviously this is a very well-known book, and in light of the release of the prequel book for the trilogy that's coming out very soon, I'm doing reviews for the 3 original books, which I read last year. I never read The Hunger Games or saw the movie when they were coming out, just because I wasn't a big reader back then. And while I was interested in the movies, I just never got around to watching them. But last year, once I got into reading, I wanted to pick them up, and I did. And I read the whole trilogy back to back. Today I'm discussing the first book in the trilogy, which is just called The Hunger Games. For me personally, this was a really, really fun read. I really enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the whole scenario in which this dystopian put us. I wouldn't necessarily say it seems like a realistic scenario. I could see how the United States could get there. I personally really liked the kind of story that was told. I enjoyed the general plot structure, and I enjoyed the character and world building in this story. I had slight issues with the pacing. I think the first third of the book was a bit slow. I wouldn't say it was too slow. I think it was just I read it while I had exams, so I couldn't read too much at the same time. So it took me a bit longer to get through the first third, but I really, really enjoyed the middle and end parts of the story. And I feel like while this is a setup book for a trilogy, it is its own story. This is a book that you can read on its own, and if you don't feel like reading more, it's fine. But it also sets up the other 2 books well. I personally really enjoyed the main character, Katniss. I enjoyed seeing this world through her perspective, and I personally... I think this is a really good story, and I would recommend it to anybody, actually. I think it's a pretty fast-paced and fun story, and it's a good setup for what's to come in the other books. What I would criticize about it is that the first third took a while to get going. As I already said, the pacing was a bit weird, but there was a really good hook in the beginning that got you interested in the story and really pulled you through to get to the more faster-paced stuff in the middle. So I think it was... all in all, it was very well done. Personally, I think this was one of my favorite reads of last year. I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars because despite the fact that my expectations were quite high, because this is a pretty big and popular book in my generation especially, so I really enjoyed it, and I was surprised that I actually enjoyed it as much as I did, and I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I will go into spoilers a bit now. If you haven't read the book, I would highly recommend that you read it. I think it still holds up quite well, and I personally really enjoyed it. So I want to talk a little bit about spoilers now. I personally really enjoyed the whole characters and the setup in this book. I especially enjoyed Katniss and her background and the story with her family. The background with her father dying in the mines, her relationship with her mother and with her sister were done very well. What I didn't like as much is her relationship with Gale. While we did have a few scenes with them at the beginning of the book, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't feel like Gale was a very important person in her life. Yes, he was a good friend to her, but I didn't quite get the romantic chemistry that you were supposed to get, I think, in the book. And the same goes with her relationship with Peeta, which obviously in this book isn't supposed to be we know that she doesn't like Peeta in a romantic way, but I feel like this book is trying to set up this romantic relationship between them, and I personally don't like Katniss in the relationship with either of them. So I didn't really like that aspect of the story, but I personally really enjoyed the whole action part of the story. I enjoyed how Suzanne Collins built up this world with the 12 districts and the capital, how you really got these different descriptions between the scenes in the District 12 and in the capital, where you can really see how oppressed the people in the districts are, which I personally really enjoyed reading about. And then obviously the whole Hunger Games part, which was quite action-packed and obviously had a few slower parts in between, but I thought that was really intriguing all the way through and up to the very end, which was quite cool. I personally think the twists and turns along the way were interesting, And it all had this very dreary feeling that something bad could happen at all times. I didn't expect that either of the main characters, Katniss or Peeta, would die. I still feel like the twists and turns in the story made a lot of sense. And especially when we got the announcement that 2 people from the same district could win the games in this year, and then when they turned that around in the end so that they would kill each other, I think that was done quite well, and I think it was a bit unexpected. While I didn't think that the announcement was real, I still had a pretty emotional reaction when they twisted the announcement and told them to kill each other. And I personally really enjoyed how they got out of that with the poisonous berries, and they almost both committed suicide and thereby forced the hand of the capital. I really enjoyed that part, and I feel like that really put a nice ending to the story, but it also planted enough seeds that we could have more books in the series, and I feel like this was a really good setup for the trilogy as a whole, but it was also a really, really good book on its own. So I think this is a really good story. I'd recommend anybody to read it. I don't know if it would hold up on a reread again, because now the more I read, maybe I think I will feel a bit worse about this book. But I personally, again, I really enjoy it. I had quite some fun with it, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, let me know what you think about the Hunger Games. Do you like this book? Do you think it still holds up? Talk to me in the comments about this. I will be doing reviews for the next 2 books in the trilogy and also the prequel that will come out on May 19th this year. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, leave a subscribe, hit the notify bell. Check out some of my other videos. Some of them should have popped up on the screen right now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.